Kia ora koutou and welcome to the second IRL at the Golden Dawn in association with Orcon. Love is the Drug by Roxy Music. That was the first song I ever heard a DJ play out that made me go, what the hell is that tune? I think I was 14 years old at the school disco, and it was one of those mobile disco things. They went from school to school. I don't know who the hell it was, but that was the first of many times that a DJ has turned my head around, and I think that's why we're here. Because as much as DJs have over the years been decried as the devils who are doing live performers out of business, they've also been heralded as the gods who lead the culture. And it's kind of the best of jobs and the worst of jobs in that sense. Actually, show of hands, how many people here have played out two people at a party or a club or whatever as a DJ? Yeah, about half of you. That's not bad. That's not bad. That's awesome. So let's get on with the show. My colleague and co-host Esther Macintyre is interviewing our first guest. Long before she was Auckland's most in-demand club DJ, before she was on George FM, she cut her teeth at BFM, where it was obvious to me that she was someone who really knew her music, and I think that's still the case. So please welcome Esther interviewing DJ Aroha.
Thank you, Russell, and thank you so much, everyone, for coming along today. It's so good to see so many faces in the crowd and at home as well. Hello, if you're watching online. Big thanks to my first guest, or our first guest today, Aroha Harawira. She has been a club DJ and a radio DJ for a while now, and is now one of our most sought after and prolific club DJs. As Russell said, she cut her teeth on student radio, as I think a lot of DJs do. But she also continues to present a radio show on George FM, The Daily Grind. Aroha, kia ora. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yay. So you've been into music since you were very young. You grew up in Masterton listening to your mother's punk rock records. What do you think sparked your interest to play music to an audience as a DJ?
Well, I never really knew about DJing until I was at Well, I mean, obviously I knew about DJing, but until I was at Radioactive, actually, that was where I first started out. And I had a boyfriend who was really into hip-hop, and we borrowed some turntables from someone. I was actually living in a flat where every other person except me was a DJ, and most of them were drum and bass DJs. There was one female in the flat, and she played techno. And we borrowed some turntables from someone, and for a while there I was collecting hip-hop records and trying to learn how to scratch and beat juggle, and I was so bad at it. But I persevered for quite a while, and then I moved to Melbourne, and that kind of, the whole DJing thing sort of stopped for me. But that was kind of my first time when I thought, shit, I could do this. And then I thought I was too old. Now this is when I was like 21. And for some reason, I thought, oh God, I should have started when I was young. I'm never going to have a chance at doing this. And that's kind of, I made up my mind that I was never going to be good enough, which is weird. That's really defeatist, but yeah.
At 21 as well. So when you were doing radio at Radio Active, and then National Radio, and then at BFM, were you focused on broadcasting at that time, or was it all about the music and playing music to other people?
I was focused on broadcasting, but to play music to people. So it wasn't about any kind of technical style of DJing or anything like that. I just wanted to play tunes. I listened to music all the time. I was really passionate about music. I still am, and I just was enthusiastic, and I got a real kick out of hearing from people when they thought something was awesome. And that first started when I was at Active. I had those moments when I started having the odd fan, and I was like, wow, this person is getting in touch with me every week when I'm doing my radio show and is telling me I'm doing a good job. And maybe I got a bit of a big head from that, in the beginning, but it kind of egged me on to keep doing what I was doing. I was like, I think I do have good taste in music. I think I could do this as a job. Yeah.
And you have managed to turn it into a career, both on radio and out at, private shows and industry events. and at clubs as well. I can think of a few key differences between club DJing and radio DJing. Some very big differences. Audience being a key one, I suppose. How do you kind of separate the two, or how do you compare the two?
Well, currently, the show that I do on George FM, like we are a commercial radio station, and so majority of what I'm playing is playlist. And there are those times when I do get to DJ, I actually physically am DJing, and I set myself a challenge on that particular show to ask the listeners to give me their requests. And so I'm scrambling together. Sometimes I'm buying shit that I haven't even heard yet, and it may not make for the nicest DJ mix, but I kind of want people to feel that I'm actually listening to them, because when I'm out in a club, I really don't like getting requests. Like, I think most DJs don't really appreciate it. Every now and then someone will come up and you're like, you've nailed it. But most of the time it's some girl or guy holding a phone up to your face and going, play this for me, plug it in, play it off YouTube, that kind of thing. And it's not appreciated when you're like, hey, well, I'm actually here to play a reggae set, and this is. And
I've actually planned out the tunes before I came here tonight.
Yeah, sort of. I mean, to be honest, I don't plan a lot before a set. Like I quite like to sort of look at the crowd and see what they're up to and whether or not they're into it. And if they're not into it, then I'll change my direction. But yeah, I can't remember what the question was, sorry.
Big differences, I guess. Playing clubs.
I mean, you get that instant feedback from people when they're in front of you, and I think that's really valuable. It's different when you're in a radio studio, because you do get feedback, but you can't see anyone. You're like, oh, I'm by myself, and then often you get like amazing amount of positive feedback, but you get some pretty nasty feedback as well.
Yes, I noticed you put something up on Facebook recently about messages, and I am familiar with those messages being on radio. But it's hard, isn't it? Because you can only see one or two kind of pieces of feedback at a time, and yet there could be thousands or hundreds maybe listening and really enjoying it. Yeah. So it's disproportionate. That's a big difference, I guess.
I've been booed by audiences before. That's not very nice. Like, there's been times when I've had a technical malfunction or something that just hasn't worked, and I'm stuck there going, pulling things in and plugging stuff in and just going, okay, I can fix this. But it's become quite a thing, and maybe in the last 4 or 5 years, where people start going, you effed up, and then they start a chant and the whole club does it. And it's pretty upsetting. And if there's a microphone and that kind of situation happens, I'll usually get on the microphone and go, I know I did it. And I'll try and turn it back on them or go, look at that guy being an asshole, sort of thing. So, yeah.
So there's no denying that most DJs, and most musicians, in fact, are male. You are bucking the trend in that sense, being one of the few female club DJs, although there are, some really awesome ones. To what extent do you think, Aroha, you've had to prove yourself simply because you are female? I'm sure there have been times when you've had to do that.
Oh, it's a difficult question. I feel like I sort of have to tread carefully with this one. I mean, I've had a lot of support from my peers, and I haven't really encountered many times when people have been rude or thought that I was good for a girl or that type of thing. And there's been some situations maybe when I've been booked by a promoter who maybe doesn't really have any idea about me but just knows that I'm a chick, and that's their reason for booking me. And that's actually that's when I'm like, oh, do I really want to do this gig? Like, are you booking me because you like the music I play, or are you booking me just because you want some sort of pretty centrepiece in the room? And maybe that's my own insecurity speaking, I don't know, but there have been those times when I'm like, is it just because I'm a bit unusual because I've got a pair of boobs and long hair?
Isn't it sad though that that's unusual?
Maybe, but I mean, when you think about it, just proportionately more men make their careers in music, and that sucks. Like, I wish more women did. But it's not just about DJing, it's just in general. You think about how many female DJs there are on the radio, or female hosts there are on the radio. You think about how many female music writers there are. It's always more men. It's just maybe, I don't know why, less females are actually as passionate about music. I don't understand it, but because I've always been into music. And so is my, I learned it from my mum. My dad never taught me anything about music. It was all from my mother. She was a record collector. She had records all around the house, and that's what she loved. So,
what do you think is one thing that most people don't realise about the art of DJing? Because it is an art. It is difficult. Beat matching is difficult, having tried.
That said, though, you don't have to beat match to be a DJ. I think to be a DJ, you have to know your music. I think that's the most important thing. I think it's more important to be a selector, someone who actually really passionately cares about music. If you just got someone's music collection from them, someone just gave you their hard drive and was like, here's my entire music collection, that doesn't make you a DJ. Do you know any of that music? Have you listened to all of those songs? Do you have any kind of connection to those songs? I mean, I know I just talked about sometimes I'll get a bunch of songs that I don't even know from listeners that they've requested, and I might not like them. But my own personal DJing experience and what I like to DJ, I care about those songs. Every song that I play, I'm like, this means something to me. That piece there, I'm just waiting for this bit to come, and then I look around and go, does everyone else feel what I'm feeling? You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Have there been gigs where you're hired and you feel like you have to almost surrender your music identity to fit with the bill or the vibe?
Yeah, totally. I do it every day. I work for a commercial radio station. There's a lot of music I play that I don't like, and that is the reality of it, and I accept that. That's my choice. I've made that choice. I have to make a living, and if I just played what I wanted all the time, I probably wouldn't make enough money. And it's, for a while there, I could kind of get by and be like, I'm going to do one gig every 2 months. But it didn't, that doesn't work for me. And because I've got a radio profile, the audience, that come to some of those gigs, they're like, well, I want to hear the songs you play on the radio. I'm like, okay, I get it. But I'm really thankful that for some reason I still get to do some really interesting gigs where I get to play just 100% what I want. And I thought, for a while there I was quite scared that by playing some music that isn't necessarily 100% my style, that I would stop getting booked for those types of gigs, but that hasn't actually happened. And the other thing is that when I say I'll play music that I don't like, I won't play anything I don't like. I'll play things that I'm like, this is all right, I guess, but it's not my favourite song. Whereas if it's a set where I'm getting to play 100% what I want because I feel like the audience are into it, then that's a win for me. And it's usually the big festivals and stuff like that I actually get to just flex whatever it is I'm into.
Yeah, the audience, coming back to the audience, it's a huge thing, isn't it? You often will gauge the audience's mood and play music accordingly, and then also in between the set go around the room, walk around, check that the volume's okay. Is there almost a checklist of things that you have, or does it come naturally to you now?
It gets a little different when you, as your profile gets bigger, there's some things that you don't have to do like you used to. Like when I was doing more of the sort of bar gigs, and a bar gig is when you're playing tunes, and these are usually the ones where you get to play pretty much anything you want, and you can play multi-genre, and it's really fun, and it's quite self-indulgent because the level is a bit quieter. People aren't actually really listening to you. So it's more about you just kind of playing music for yourself, and then every now and then someone will come over and go, great tunes, thank you. But you're tucked away in the corner and people are eating and drinking, that kind of thing. Those sort of ones, obviously, you walk around, you're like, is this appropriate for right now? Are people wincing, struggling to talk to each other while they're eating their oysters? But the bigger club gigs and the festival gigs that I do now, I have a checklist of things that I send to someone, and I say, okay, this is what I expect, and this needs to be met before I come. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. Sometimes I'll ask for a deposit so that I know that if all hell breaks loose and the business goes tits up, then at least I'll get paid something. So, yeah, I guess I just know what works best for me now, and so I'll send that information through to the promoters and say, I need to have all of these things, and it usually works. And now I ask for security all the time because I get harassed.
You do get harassed?
Yeah.
That was going to be my next question. Especially for women, and you're in this little booth and you're kind of tucked away in the corner and not necessarily you're alone a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Pretty much all of the time. Can you tell us about some of those experiences?
Should I tell you about the worst one?
Tell us about the worst one. Can you guys hear Aroha okay? Are you just a
Sorry,
little bit?
I should know microphone technique.
No worries.
Now I feel really loud. So I was playing at a club in Auckland, and it started at midnight, and I was going through till 4 p.m. And this is when I was just DJing for income. I had no other job. I'd just come back from like a 3-month trip overseas, and kind of was like, shit, I need to make some money. And so I just exclusively DJed like 5-6 gigs in a weekend sort of thing. And it was the end of the night, and I was mixing 2 songs together. I was beat matching 2 songs together, which is complex, you know, you've got to use your brain to do it. And some dude just kind of comes into the DJ booth, and it was on the same level as the dance floor, so everyone could just kind of walk in. And he comes behind me, and I'm like, what the hell is he doing? And then next thing, he gropes me, top and bottom, and I'm just like, oh God, like, and then train wreck, everyone leaves the dance floor. So that's a bad feeling, number one. That happened. Number two, I turn around, start yelling at him, and then he drops his guts in the DJ booth. That's the worst. Yeah, that was pretty horrendous.
I'm sorry that you had to go through that.
And then security came over and got rid of him, but it was not nice. And then there was no dance floor. I was like, wicked. And then I had to walk to my car by myself. So.
And that was one instance, but does it happen often? Does it happen often now? You've been doing it for a while, and you're a strong person.
Yeah, not so much now because I have security all the time. So I generally ask. I mean, for the events where it's going to be a big crowd, I ask them to make sure that someone keeps an eye on me, and that usually works. Walk me to my car, please. Come and get me from my car when I arrive. Things like that, and. As long as I've got my wits about me, I'm okay. But I have been followed to my car by groups of guys before, at like 4 a.m, that kind of thing, which isn't very nice. And I know that male DJs get harassed as well. I mean, I've had a couple of guy friends tell me that they've been harassed by both men and women, like girls coming up into the DJ booth and just grabbing them and groping at their bits and that type of stuff. And it's weird. People, you know, when people are drunk, they're assholes.
Yeah, alcohol has a big part to play in that. Tell us about your best DJ experience, or if you could have the most magical DJ experience, and what sort of music would you play, and what sort of crowd would you hope for?
Probably the best DJ experience I had was Rhythm and Vines, not the one that has just passed, but the one before that. And I got to do the sunrise set, so that's when obviously the sun's coming up, and it's like the final set of the festival. And
everyone's wasted.
Everyone's wasted, yeah. But it was those people that sort of stuck around. They're like, I'm going to be here till the bitter end. And, you know, the festival had kind of emptied out a little bit, but there's lots of gremlins out there. But the sun is coming up, and I was playing 100% what I wanted, and it was really happy music, happy house and techno. And it was just such a warm and positive vibe. Everyone was smiling. Yeah, I'd say that was probably my favourite experience. It just felt like, even though it was outside and, you know, it was a big stage and it was kind of little patches of people and it wasn't like a huge crowd, there was just so many smiles on so many faces, and that's a really good feeling when you can do that for people.
That's pretty special.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about at home, Aroha? What kind of, what's your setup like at home when you're listening to music? Or do you even listen to music when you're not working?
I actually don't listen to a lot of music at home. Because my ears are so sore after 5 hours on the radio every day that I generally go home and just go, I just need a break. But the music I listen to at home is not really dance music. Like, I generally tend to trawl through blogs and listen to internet radio and podcasts and stuff, and just music that is other than what I would play on George. Obviously, I do my preparation time, stuff that is appropriate for George FM, but my setup is I have two Technics 1200 Mark III turntables, I think, and I've got a Serato Pioneer DDJ SX2, which I've got my turntables plugged into because they've got photo input, so I can sort of stuff around with Serato stuff on that. And it's got a standalone, you can use it as a standalone mixer as well, so I can plug my turntables into it. So, yeah, it's kind of fun. And I've got all my records as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. I don't know how you do 5 hours on the radio every day, 10 till 3. That is such a long show. I struggle to do 3. How do you do it?
Caffeine. Yeah, I mean, sometimes it gets a bit tedious, but it's more because, I've got that repetition of songs that I'm playing each day, and so the music that is on the playlist is coming from the studio computer, and then I sort of dip in every now and then and go, here's my personal choice kind of thing.
What's the balance like? Is it 50-50 or?
Maybe 90-10.
Oh,
yeah.
Right, yeah. So not a huge amount of
maybe,
freedom there.
Not a lot, but I think the key is making, people think that, and sometimes I'm like, I don't want them to think that I like this song. I hate this Justin Bieber shit. But and I have actually been told off for saying that before. But you're meant to make it sound as fluid as possible, and people do think that I'm selecting all of the music a lot of the time. They're like, yeah, you love this song. I'm like, I don't actually.
You love it.
But it's all part of it's all part of the craft. It's a challenge.
Yeah, and it's a job. It is a paid
But it's a pretty
job.
fun job.
Yeah. Cool. Aroha, thank you so much for joining us today. That's Aroha Harawira, a.k.a. DJ Aroha.
Thanks.